Hey everyone, it's Lisa. Today I'm going to share with you a Christmas card. It was inspired by a card I saw as I was surfing through YouTube. I didn't go to the video, I just happened to see the picture of it at the end of another video. So this is my take on it using the supplies that I have. So I'm going to use a standard A2 card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I will be using the Christmas Collectibles stamp set, the Mosaic Madness stamp set, and Daydream Medallion stamp set, and I will be using this one here. So what I thought I'd try, before I get started also, if you decide to make this project, you will need an embossing pillow. I used to use dryer sheets, but I find that this actually works better. And yes, it does leave powder. There was powder on my other card. At first I brushed it with a paintbrush, but I found it came off quite easily by me just brushing it off with my hand, whatever the brush didn't get off. So as you can see here, I mean, the card looks fine, I think. My snail runner, a little 1/4 inch by 4 1/4 inch Whisper White cardstock. My Stays On ink, my Versamark ink. For me, I wanted to make sure I got my letters on right, so I'm using my Stamp-A-Majig and my heat tool and white embossing powder. So something I'm trying for the first time in front of you, hopefully that'll work. I want to make sure that my block is very clean. I used to also use something different. I eventually broke down and bought this wonderful cloth from Stampin' Up! And I have to tell you, my stamps cling so much better to the block when I clean them. I clean the block and the stamps as well. And I want to make sure this one is good and clean because I am going to put all my stamps on to it at once. And what I want to do is center that on top of my card so I can see where my placements are. And normally I do this, I like to press my block onto my stamp, but we'll see if this works. You know, it just may not. In fact, now that I'm doing it, what I realize, I'm going to go ahead and press these down. And these were clean earlier when I did the project the first time, so hopefully they'll stay. What I realize as I'm doing this is I'm not going to be able to put my ornament in the middle of there. Even though it fits on there, the image fits between the little reef, my stamp will not fit there. So, but we have this part on, and I'm just going to give it a good press again, make sure it's on there good, and that way I can go ahead and ink them both up and heat emboss them at the same time. So I'm going to get my Versamark, stamp that on. I want it good and wet, but I do want to be careful that I don't have any halos. So I'm going to look at my stamp before I stamp it. And looks good. Oh no, so right here I have a bit of ink, and you can see it's shiny on there. I don't know if it's coming through on the video, but if you see any ink around your edges, you want to make sure you carefully get that up. I usually just wipe it off with my finger because that will stamp onto your project and you don't want that to happen. So before I apply my ink and my embossing powder, I need to take my embossing buddy and rub it all over my cardstock. If you don't have an embossing buddy, I used to use dryer sheets. I find for me this works better. Normally I just need a brush to brush that off, or I find that with the black cardstock, I just kind of have to rub it off a little with my hand to get it off even better. But as you can see, it does come off. The important thing is that you get rid of the static on the card, otherwise you will have a big old mess of powder and it's a lot harder to try to get it all off without disturbing your image than if you only have a little bit. So I'm going to try to center that. And I don't want to move my image, and I can already see that my border may not be exactly where I want it. Okay. You can do this, you know, with individual blocks, or like I did, I just put both of those images on, and if I could have gotten away with putting all three of my stamps on at once, I would have. But even though this ornament image fits in the middle of the wreath, the stamp itself will not fit in the middle of the other stamp. So I have to do that separately. So now I'm going to get my embossing powder. And I'm going to be very generous. I'm not worrying about wasting because I'm doing this over my container. Get as much, knock as much off as I can this way, and then use my brush. I have a couple of brushes that I use to clean off embossing powders. I find that I use the tiny one the most, because I usually have to get up very close to my image. But if I have like a wide area, then I use the other brush, the fan brush. I'm sure it has some other name, but I'm not a painter. So I don't know the names of the different brushes. And there you are. So I'm going to move this powder aside. And I see there's a little more on there. You don't want to heat that in because it will not come off later. Just kind of looking to make sure I don't have little specks where I don't want them. Situating the card in a way that makes it easier for me to brush off the extra flakes without disturbing my image. If you do happen to accidentally mess up your image, you can go back in with a Versamark pen and add more Versamark that way if you're an artist, and you can do that. I personally don't want to have to try to do that because I will probably mess my project up even worse. Okay, so it's a little noisy now, and if you've ever used done heat embossing, you're used to that. For those of you who are new to this, you notice that we put a powder on, and when it begins to turn that beautiful shiny white, and it looks very striking on this black cardstock, then you know the embossing is done. Keep your hand away from the heat. A lot of times I will use a pair of tweezers to hold my project, but because this is such a large piece, I just hold it with my hand. So, hope you could all see that. It's very pretty. And now I'm going to stamp on my ornament in the middle. And this ornament stamp set, this Christmas Collectibles, has a coordinating punch, which is really fun. Okay, and now I'm going to try to center that. Best I can. I want to make sure the paper absorbs that ink. Okay, well, it's not perfect, but you get the idea. You can use your Stampin' Majig to make sure it's more precise. I eyeballed it on the last card I made, and it actually came out, but things usually don't come out perfectly when I'm recording. A lot of times I edit them out, but I don't know that I'll be doing that today. I'm hoping I even am able to post this, because I keep having problems with software or my computer or life in general. Just, it's always something that seems to be keeping me from posting videos for you lately. I have been working in the craft room and have lots of projects I'd love to share with you, but it doesn't seem to always work out. So I greatly appreciate those of you who stick around when I'm missing in action, and you know, I will be back eventually, Lord willing. So hopefully this video will show its pretty little head on on YouTube. We'll see. Okay, so just trying to make sure I don't have any excess powder anywhere, because I don't want that to be heated onto my project. Now I see some in this large area, and I'm going to go ahead and use my embossing buddy here, because it wasn't coming off for some reason. And I can clean that up better later as far as the powder from the embossing buddy. My main thing is I don't want extra powder on my project, because there's no way you can get that off. Once it's heated onto your project, it's there. And maybe you can put some type of embellishment over it to try to hide it, or, oops, wrong setting. That's low. I want it on high. So again, you can see how the change magically comes about right before your eyes. It doesn't take long at all. And I want to let that cool a bit. I don't want to touch it. Okay, so I'm going to try first to clean up my area. I seem to have extra powder around, which shows up quite a bit on this black cardstock. There we go. That's better. I'm just taking a dry paper towel to wipe that off. Okay, so now I'm going to add this strip of 1/4 inch by 4 1/4 inch piece of Whisper White cardstock. Want it all the way to the edge. Edge to edge. I'm trying to make sure it's straight. Okay. That's good enough. So the reason why I put this on before stamping it is because it makes it easier for me to, it gives me something to grip onto when I use my Stampin' Majig, rather than this little strip by itself. So I've already gone ahead and stamped my image, and this is from the Teeny Tiny Wishes stamp set, which I use a lot. Love that stamp set. I'm going to make sure that's centered top to bottom and side to side. And then I'm going to go ahead and use Stays On ink. Make sure I have no halo. And press straight down. There. And then the last thing I'm going to do on this card, well, next to the last thing, the other thing I will do off camera, because it is a black card, I will definitely want to put a piece of Whisper White paper in the middle and the inside. Or you can write your image write your sentiment using our chalk marker. But the last thing I'm going to do on camera is just add a little bling, because bling is fun. Ready? Just adds a little, just another little special detail. So this card should take, all of, I don't know, 2 to 5 minutes, depending on how quickly you can work. It's taking a little longer because I'm doing a recording, but it takes no time at all, so you can just whip these up real quick. Then if you wanted to, you could go ahead and stamp your images on a bunch of strips and have that done. But for me, I just felt like it was easier for me to lay my strip of cardstock down, and that way I have something for this to hold on to. So it would have worked the other way just fine, but anyway, that's the way I wanted to do it. So here are my cards for today. I hope you enjoyed this project. I look forward to being with you again. Hopefully it won't be as long as this last missing in action episode. I have way too many of those for my liking. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.